tomato video number 1. Green tomato bread. It's like a zucchini bread. I'm going to give you the recipe. Of course, I'm going to make Joe taste test it. It's a hard job for him. But it's an interesting one, and so many times we have a lot of green tomatoes. It may be that the sun isn't warm enough and they're just not turning red. It could be at the end of the season and you have a lot of tomatoes. What are you going to do with all those green tomatoes? Make tomato bread. So here's my recipe for green tomato bread, which it will also be in the description below. And it's very similar to a zucchini bread. And we're going to bake it at 350 degrees for about 55 minutes. But the trick is small diced green tomatoes. And I need 2.5 cups of those. And so it's a great way to use up those little tomatoes that you just didn't know what you were going to do with. And we're going to cut them up really pretty small. You could probably send them through a food processor to make them, but it's really quick. And there's basically 2.5 cups of them. So I have my 2 cups of sugar in the mixer, and I'm going to add my tomatoes to it. And it works really good to mix it well. Now I need 1 cup of oil, and I was just short of 1 cup of oil, so I melted a little bit of butter, and that's why it was yellow on top. And I'm going to put that down, and I'm going to mix that just for a little bit. Now, a lot of recipes will call for canola oil. I never use canola oil. Ever, never. 2 eggs go in there. And I'm using large eggs. If you had just medium eggs, I would probably use 3 of them. We need 1 tablespoon of vanilla, a teaspoon of salt. Now, I like to add my cinnamon right now, and I also like to add the baking soda and the baking powder right now. A lot of times recipes will have you mix it with the flour, but I really like it adding to the liquid. Just a personal choice. I'm going to add my 1.5 cups of chopped walnuts. You could also use pecans or just have it with no nuts too. That's totally up to you. But I'm just making sure that it's all incorporated. I'm going to turn the mixer back on, and I'm going to add my flour. Now I need 3 cups of white flour. And so I'm going to mix that all up, and always scrape because you don't want to get a clump of flour stuck. Now I sprayed my pans, and you can use any kind of vegetable, coconut oil, anything like that to spray your pans. And these are 2 9x5 loaf pans. My oven is already preheated to the 350 degrees. It's going to stay in my oven for about 55 minutes, but always check your bread. It starts to crack along the top, and it is going to sit in those pans for about 10 minutes before I try to take it out. It cools it down a little bit, and it makes it much easier to take it out. Now there's a slice for Joe, and there's the slice where I cut it off. This is Joe taste testing a green tomato bread. It's like a zucchini bread or banana bread, pumpkin bread, only you use green tomatoes instead. And it has a little bit of butter on it too. Has some cinnamon in there. So Joe, see what you think.
Sounds good too.
As always, like, subscribe, share with the world. It's day 14 of our countdown back to Wyoming. And I was taking apart my garden, so you know I got lots of tomatoes to do stuff with. In fact, Goldie, one of my neighbors, she came over and got a whole bunch of tomatoes this morning. And she said she's been eating an entire tomato every single day from my garden.